Hi, everyone. Welcome to 1 minute and 43 seconds. And Elaine, let them know what we are.
Let them know what we are?
We are a true Unsolved Mysteries
Unsolved
podcast.
Mysteries podcast. Yes.
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry.
No problem. No problem. Welcome to the show. Happy Valentine's Day for all of you.
Happy Valentine's Day to everyone listening and to you, Megan.
And to you. Thank you again for being here. And for those of you who don't know, I have returning guest and on the top 10 list of my favorite human beings, Elaine Erickson. Thank you again for joining me.
Thank you for having me again.
So I know people are not used to episodes coming out on Monday because I typically release episodes on Friday because it's my favorite day of the week. Mm-hmm. But the case that we're going to be talking about today is actually one that happened on Valentine's Day. And it happened in the year 2000. So this was 22 years ago, if you can believe that.
Wow.
We would have been 11, Elaine.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
We would have been just a couple years older than the person we're going to be talking about today.
You know what? 2000 is the year that we met.
Oh my gosh.
That's when we first became friends.
That's true. Fifth grade. I remember that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I feel like this is going to be a great case for us to do together. And it's a very bizarre one. There's a lot of bizarre twists and turns. It's very tragic. And it's also perfect that this is coming out on Valentine's Day because it's a great way to bring awareness. And then I guess, just the fact that it's the exact 22-year anniversary. And something else that's crazy. So it not only is 22 years after this happened, but the days of the week are actually falling on the exact same time that they did at that time.
Oh.
So Valentine's Day in 2000.
Cool.
Yeah. Valentine's Day in the year 2000 was also on a Monday.
Okay.
So what do you think, Elaine? Should we get into this case?
Let's get started. I'm very anxious to hear it.
Okay, great. Today we're going to be talking about Asha Degree.
Oh.
Have you heard about this case before I dive in?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So let me go ahead and get started. So Asha Degree, she was 9 years old in the year 2000. She was born on August 5th, 1990. So, a little more than a year after we were born.
Yeah. So just about the same age as us.
Yes. Asha lived with her family in Shelby, North Carolina. Actually, they lived a bit outside of Shelby. They lived in kind of a rural area. But she had her mom and dad, Harold and Iquilla, and her older brother named O'Brien. And I believe O'Brien was 10 at the time. So they were pretty close in age. Mm-hmm. So they had a pretty normal childhood from everything I could find. They were a bit sheltered. The parents really made sure that they actually didn't own a computer. At the time, 2000, I think people were just starting to get computers.
Yeah, I think so.
So it's not that unusual, but they were very mindful of what their kids did. They didn't watch the news or anything like that. They didn't want to tarnish their children's views of the world. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, this makes what happens later even more upsetting. So our story is going to start, we're going to back up a little bit to February 11th, 2000.
Okay.
So this day, the kids were off of school because it was like some teacher's work day or something like that.
Okay.
So the kids didn't have school, but I guess Asha had basketball practice. She was part of her basketball team.
Mm-hmm.
Please don't kill me. It's been so long. Were you on the basketball team?
In 5th grade, I was. Maybe 6th grade. That was it. Yeah.
Okay. Forgive me for not remembering. But
No,
there are
that's
just
okay.
so many parallels I'm seeing because we were similar in age to Asha. She was on the basketball team. You know, a lot of her life, it just seems kind of like the same sort of routines we were in at that age, you know?
Yeah, it does.
So anyway, she had a basketball practice that day on Friday, February 11th. She was a student at Falston Elementary School along with her brother. So they had a basketball practice that day. They go home after the practice, and that's pretty much all that happens on Friday.
Okay.
Saturday, February 12th, they actually had a basketball game. So the girls' team was to play first, which Asha was a part of. And then her brother O'Brien had a game directly after. So I'm sure you remember when we were at school that was how they would do it. They do like the girls' game and then the boys' game.
Yeah.
So this is the first significant thing that, you know, people sometimes bring up when they talk about this disappearance. So Asha's team lost the game.
Mm-hmm.
And it was their first loss of the season. And she actually fouled out of the game. So she kind of blamed herself for the loss.
Oh.
So she was really upset. She was crying.
Yeah.
And also it should be noted that all of her friends were crying as well. Do you remember? I remember distinctly on the girls' team, the girls all crying when we lost a game. Maybe it was later on. I don't remember. I think I played through 8th grade.
I think you did, yeah. What I remember is that I think when I joined, I was very tall for my age. So I think people were optimistic that I was joining, that I'd be good. And I'm terrible. I barely understood the rules of basketball. So I feel like I may have been partially or greatly responsible for some of those losses.
No. I just remember, I'm kind of in the same boat.
Maybe the other girls didn't cry in front of me because it was my fault.
Oh, stop. I remember the same thing, though. I didn't fully grasp all of the rules. And so I just kind of listened to what the ref said. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, so I don't think it's that abnormal that she cried. She's 9 years old.
Well, at that age, yeah. Kids take their sports very seriously at that age, even though they really don't mean anything. And the highest we would score was like 18 points. But of course you feel,
But Asha eventually felt better. Their coach, Chad Wilson, he reported that Asha was cheering for her brother when his game was right after that. So she was upset, but she got over it. So her parents say the same thing. Her coach says the same thing. Mm-hmm. And besides that fact, later that night, now this is Saturday, February 12th, she has a sleepover at her cousin's house.
Okay.
So from what I'm understanding, I think she had family that lived close by. So I think this was a cousin that lived either across the street or very close to her house. So
okay.
She has a sleepover. She and her cousin stayed up very late. This is another thing you and me can relate to.
Yeah.
When it comes to sleepovers, I started thinking about this, and it's like we would stay up until very late.
Oh, yeah.
Just laughing and whatever.
Playing Truth or Dare.
Yes, Truth or Dare. I remember, this is so lame, but I love it. We would literally be like, good night, I'm going to sleep now. But it feels so weird to say good night because it's 2 a.m. So good morning. But that feels weird. And we would go back and forth like, good morning, good night.
This is also totally off topic, but on one of those sleepovers, we printed off a picture of John Stossel. Remember? Or John Stossel or John Stoppel? I don't remember.
Stossel.
Yes, because your dad really liked him or something like that. And then we'd bug your dad about John Stossel.
Shout out to you, Dad. Do you remember John Stossel? I remember when I met him.
You met John Stossel?
Yeah. You commented on the picture.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Shout out to you, John Stossel.
Yes.
If you're
Maybe
listening.
he's the listener.
Please collab with me. We could do a case. Anyway.
That'd be amazing. Let me be a guest on that one.
Okay. It'll be the three of us.
Okay.
So
maybe include your dad too.
Yeah, the four of us. That sounds great.
Okay.
I'll work on getting that set up.
Okay, thank you. Anyway.
Don't hold your breath. So she stays up really late having a sleepover. On Sunday, February 13th, her parents pick her up early because she needs to go to church with them.
Okay.
And from what I understand, I think Asha actually had like a Bible study or a Sunday school type thing while the adults attended mass.
Okay.
So they do that. And then after that, they go to Harold's sister. And remember, Harold is Asha's dad. So they go over there for lunch. And I guess his mother or, Asha's grandmother is there. And she gives the kids Valentine's Day gifts.
Oh,
so
okay.
They have like cinnamon candies, which was Asha's favorite. I think she also got like a bottle of perfume or something. So it was a busy day for her and the family. So Asha actually fell asleep early that night. This is, again, February 13th, Sunday.
Okay. So far, everything seems normal.
Seems normal, right? Yeah. So now is where the timeline gets a little confusing just because it's been 22 years. So there's some discrepancies in exactly what time certain things happen. But some sources say Asha fell asleep on the couch around 6:30 in the evening because, she had been at the sleepover super late and she had had a busy day with church and her aunt's house.
Sure.
So there's that. Around 8:30 p.m., a storm hit the area, which woke her up.
Okay.
And it was a big storm because eventually the power went out.
Okay.
In the area because I don't know. I think it was because somebody hit like a phone pole or something during the storm and that knocked out the power. Either way, the power went out.
Okay. And this is Valentine's Day?
No. I'm sorry. This is February 13th.
Okay.
Now, there's some sources that say that Harold, who is the father, was working this evening and he actually worked second shift. So Iquilla she worked the first shift, but Harold worked the second shift. So some sources say that he was working that night, and some other sources say that he actually went out that night to make run some last minute errands, because not only was it Valentine's Day the next day, but it was actually his wife and his anniversary.
Oh.
Right.
Oh, no, this is going to make the next part so much more heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking. Believe me, it's terrible. Some sources say he might have gotten back from his run to get candy around 12 midnight, which seems, a lot of people, like, for example, my family, nobody's running errands that late. But we have to remember he worked the second shift, so maybe this wasn't completely normal for him.
That makes sense. Because I would run errands right after work. So I guess if he's done at, 10, 11, that would make sense.
Yeah. So it's unclear exactly, if he was working or if he was getting candy or exactly where this information comes from, because he himself, I'm not sure that there's any article or anything that quotes him directly, but somehow it was conveyed. The guys on True Crime Garage, which is one of my favorite podcasts, they said they think it's like a game of telephone kind of. This information has been a little bit, it's changed over time. So anyway, the important thing is he's home at around 12. The power comes back around 12:30.
Okay.
And this is the first time he checks on the kids, and they're both in bed at this point.
Okay.
Now, They lived kind of in an apartment, but it was like a double, I guess, like a duplex style.
Okay.
So it wasn't like huge, but Iquilla and Harold had the master bedroom, and then there was one other bedroom, and that was shared by Asha and her brother O'Brien.
Okay.
So he checks on them at 12:30 a.m. They're both in bed. He stays up and watches some TV because he's not tired yet or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Again, second shift.
Sure.
He decides about 2:30 a.m. he wants to go to sleep. So this is the last time he sees his daughter Asha, because he checks on them at 2:30 in the morning, and they're both in there, and so then he goes off to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So O'Brien, her brother, wakes up at night and hears his sister's bed squeaking. So what he says is that it sounds like she's tossing and turning, right?
Okay.
But what we are going to learn later is that she actually gets up and leaves.
Oh.
We'll stop there and then we'll fast forward into the morning, okay?
Okay.
At around 5:45, or a little bit before 6 o'clock in the morning, this is Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2000.
Mm-hmm.
Asha's mother, Iquilla, wakes up.
Okay.
She typically gets the kids up around 6:30 to get them ready for school.
Mm-hmm.
And she gets ready to draw them a bath, to get them in the bath before it's time to go.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes in to get them up, and she sees O'Brien in his bed sleeping, but Asha's not in her bed.
Okay.
Now, Asha's bed looks as if it was slept in, and as we said, Harold checked the night before at 2:30, and she was there sleeping.
Yeah.
So she wakes up her husband, who was asleep, and lets him know that Asha's not in her bed and she can't find him. So together, they decide to call Asha's grandmother and aunt. If you remember, they live across the street. And I was unclear if they live together or if they both live there. They both live across the street in separate homes. But
yeah.
So
didn't your grandma live across the street?
Ish.
Or some,
no.
Not someone, maybe not. They live
near. Might be thinking of Everybody Loves Raymond. The grandparents lived across the street on that show, and I love that show.
That might be. You're right. Thank you.
No, I mean, our grandparents lived close, but not on
the same street.
No, unless I'm thinking, I can't remember something.
Mm.
So this is where it gets tragic. So they call up the grandmother. The grandmother they say basically like, we can't find Asha. Did she come over to your house for something? And the grandmother and the aunt, they say, no, she's not here. So they call 911 at that point. And Harold is the one that makes the call. And he says that basically Asha's gone, that her brother didn't hear anything during the night except, tossing and turning maybe. And on the call, which is really sad, you can hear her mother sobbing in the background.
Oh my God.
Now, I don't think this call has been made public, but there's a transcript of it and it notes that she was sobbing in the background.
Mm-hmm.
So
that seems terrifying.
Yeah. Can you imagine? I mean, especially as a mother, I mean, I'm not a mother, but just imagining that situation would be terrible. I mean, this is in your own home, and it's like your mind probably isn't wrapping around what's going on.
No, you just expect your kid to be in their bed in the morning when you wake up. That's
right, because why wouldn't they be?
Right.
Especially Harold says he checked on her at 2:30 in the morning. So what happened between, those 4 hours is yeah. So the police show up basically right away, like a few minutes later, which is good. So within 1 hour, they had search dogs, and they had basically, when they couldn't find, this is a part I missed, when they couldn't find Asha in the house and she wasn't at her grandmother's house, as Harold is calling 911, I believe at some point, Iquilla runs outside and is screaming for Asha's name. and she wakes up basically the entire neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So people come out and they, well-meaning neighbors come out and they start searching for her.
Mm-hmm.
They don't find anything. There's like about 60 people looking. They did find a glove, according to the Star. They determined that it wasn't her glove.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So are you ready for it to get creepy?
Yes.
To me, it's creepy. Okay.
It's already a little creepy.
And strange. It is.
Yes.
But we're going to back up a little bit. Okay.
Okay.
So around 3:45 a.m. or 4 a.m., it's unclear exactly when this happened, but around that time, there's a guy named Jeff Rupp, and he was a trucker, right? So he is driving along and he saw somebody walking on the side of the street, and she's walking south on State Highway 18.
He sees a woman walking?
He sees a child walking.
Oh, a child. Okay. Oh.
He describes the girl as a child wearing white and no coat. And he described her as wearing pigtails, which Asha always wore her hair in pigtails.
Yeah. And
He
you
thought
said this was on the highway?
Walking on Highway 18. So Highway 18 runs through a lot of cities, I guess, but that would be the route that her bus takes to school.
Okay.
However, she was walking in the opposite direction of where her school was. She was walking south and her school was north.
Okay.
So he thought this was really weird because she was obviously a child. He turns around, he pulls around, he says, and turns around to see if he can, whether he's going to offer her help or what he's going to do, ask what she's doing out there. She was walking at a good pace with her head down as if she knew where she was going. But he tried to speak to her. But when he rolled down his window, she ran off into a wooded area.
Oh.
As if she was like spooked by him.
Yeah.
Okay. Now there's another trucker that calls this in separately. Okay.
Okay.
His name is Roy Blanton and his son Roy Jr. They were driving together. Now for work, they often drove down from North Carolina, which this is where this is taking place, to Chicago. And they spotted somebody around 4:30 in the morning. Now, at the time, they thought they didn't, because they, flew past this person. They thought it was a woman or something just walking. But they also said she was wearing light colored clothing. So they get on their radio and they say, basically as a warning to the other truckers in the area to be careful because there's somebody out walking on the highway. Okay. Now, neither of these people contacted police right away.
Oh.
So
that's a little surprising.
It's a little weird. Yeah. So for the first one, I understand because they thought it was a woman and they called it out on the radio. Like, how often do you see like a person walking and it might be weird, but when do you think, oh, I should call the cops? Unless you're clear that it's a child. Yeah,
right. Yeah, if it's an adult, they'd say, well, that's weird that you're walking on a highway at nighttime, but you're an adult, You're responsible for yourself. But a child, if you could tell that it was a child, that's extremely unsafe.
Agreed. So actually, it was around noontime when the first person that said that said he saw her, the one that, stopped and turned around and attempted to talk to her. He called the police around noon that day on February 14th because he was watching the news and he saw that there was a missing person by this time.
Okay.
So he calls this into police. And I believe also when the other two truckers, I think it was like one of them was talking to his wife or something, and the wife mentioned there's somebody from our area that's missing. So then he called the police too and let them know what he saw. So,
okay.
So that's how that went out. Okay.
Okay.
So basically where we are is we have two separate sightings from two separate truck drivers that are saying someone matching Asha's description was seen walking down this highway in the dark. I should also note that it was also pouring rain at this time still. And Asha was known to be afraid of both storms and afraid of the dark.
Oh.
So based on what I'm going to tell you, with more discoveries that happen, it's pretty certain that this was Asha walking.
Okay.
Now, why on earth was Asha walking in the dark, in the middle of the night, in the rain, when she was afraid at age 9?
Yeah.
So we got to let that sink in just for a minute. It's very strange. So now they at least, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you. Go ahead.
No, you're okay. Keep going.
So now at least this is the area where they spotted Asha. She's already a mile away from her house. So the searchers now, with this information, they move the search from around their house to this area south of her house. Okay?
Okay.
So the family discovered that Asha's backpack was missing.
Oh.
So she left with the nightgown and the nightshirt she was last seen wearing. She packed up a pair of blue jeans, and I believe she was wearing a long, it's unclear if she basically packed up some clothes, and then she was obviously wearing some clothes when she left.
Yeah.
So she took her backpack, she had her white sneakers, she took her black Tweety Bird purse, and her black and beige book bag. So she packed up a bag of clothes. And I think her basketball uniform was also missing. She packed it up and basically left her house. The house was found locked up, but other than O'Brien hearing the tossing and turning, or what he thought was tossing and turning, nobody else heard her leave the house that night. Okay. So in addition to searching the area, they're also telling people, search your property around this area of the highway where, she was seen. People are asking them to search their property, which is where we get to the Turners. The Turners is a family that lives about 1.5 miles south of where Asha and her family lives.
Okay.
They find some things. They go into this, it's like a tool shed or like a storage shed, basically. And they find a wallet. I think they found basically some items in the shed that belonged to Asha. One of which was very strange, and I'm going to show you this so you can see it. So they find this wallet-sized photo among some other items at their shed that belonged to Asha, and we'll get into those. But this little girl, it's as you can see, it's a black little girl that looks around the age of Asha, but it is not Asha.
Oh, okay.
The Turners who found this photo have no idea who it is. And they turned it into the police and her school, and nobody knows who this child is.
Oh, that's weird.
And for those of you listening, obviously, we're going to post this on Instagram, and I'll just describe it. It's a photo of a little girl who, it looks to me like she's posing for a school photo or something.
It does, yeah.
Same?
Yeah. Yeah, this looks like a spring photo. There's a backdrop and her arms are folded.
Yeah.
It's like waist up.
Right.
Is it in black and white? It's in black and white in this photo.
Yes, I believe it is in black and white. I think people have attempted to touch it up. Actually, there is a color photo here. I don't know if somebody did this or if the actual photo itself was found black and white.
I wonder, because if it was a current photo in the year 2000, it wouldn't be black and white.
Yeah.
Unless this was a copy out of a newspaper or something.
They did actually run it in the newspaper to see if anybody else could identify it. they did it with this article here.
Oh.
So they ran a photo of the girl, and I forget what paper this is, but it says, "Do you know who this girl is? Cleveland County authorities are trying to determine whether this photo is connected with the case of 9-year-old Asha Degree, missing from her home near Shelby since February 14th. The picture turned up in the same shed off North Carolina Highway 18, where items identified as Asha's were found. Asha's family didn't recognize the girl in the photo, and neither did officials at Asha's school." And then they go on to say, if you do recognize the photo, to call the police.
Wow. So they found items belonging to Asha. Did they find her backpack and her clothes in the shed?
Oh, just you wait.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Oh, I'm telling you, it gets crazy. I feel like I say that every single episode I do. I'm like, oh, it gets crazy.
This might be one of the craziest ones that I have heard.
It's definitely crazy.
At this point, I have absolutely zero idea what could have happened or where this could be going.
Around the Turner's property near the shed, they found candy wrappers, a hair bow, and a pencil and pen, which all came back. Her parents confirmed they all belonged to Asha.
Oh.
Now, the candy wrappers, they said that the kids were given that exact type of candy at school for Valentine's Day.
Okay.
So they were able to connect all these items back to Asha. Now, this shed was off of the highway. Let's also keep in mind, it's pitch black out here. It's a rural area. It's storming.
Oh, yeah.
It's the middle of the night. And, this is a 9-year-old girl walking along this road. So
that's a good point. Are there street lamps?
I don't believe so. I think this is literally just a highway.
Not a rural highway.
Right.
Wow.
So they continue to search, right?
Yeah.
They talked to the truckers that saw Asha that night. They call it off the evening of February 20th.
Okay.
The police. What's that? Yeah, about a week.
Yeah.
So they find some of her items, but they don't find her. Now, they interview Asha's classmates. And they do say, according to her friends, that Asha had some money in one of that little Tweety Bird purse. But they don't know where she got the money from. And I'm unclear about how much money it was, but apparently she was showing off some money she had to her friends.
Okay.
February 21st, around 3:00 in the morning, the police set up a roadblock for everybody that's driving along NC Highway 18. And I guess their reason for doing this is to ask people about Asha. They're trying to get a sense of who's driving the roads at that time of night to see if they can get any more information or any more sightings of people who may have seen her.
Okay.
So there's this guy, Baron Ramsey.
Okay.
This is the summer of 2000. Now, what is that? A few months, let's see, March, April, May, June. About 4 to 5 months after Asha disappeared. This guy from a local jail, he's an inmate at a local jail. He also happens to be a former high school classmate of Iquilla.
Oh.
He claims on the night that Asha disappeared that he and another man were driving back to Shelby after buying drugs. And while driving, the men hit Asha.
Oh.
That she was trying to cross the road and they hit her.
Oh my God.
Ramsey said his friend put her in the back of the truck. She was unconscious, dropped him at home, and then left with Asha still in the vehicle.
Oh my God.
Later, he said he helped his friend dump Asha's body in Moss Lake. But it's important to say that the police don't believe this story. The first reason is because there's no evidence of a hit and run. They dragged the lake twice and they had it searched by divers and they found nothing.
Okay.
They found no blood, no skid marks, no paint chips where she was last seen. And at the time that this was going on, I guess this guy Ramsey was facing charges and they thought that he was making this up to get a plea deal.
Oh.
Which is, people do falsely confess to things,
That's
which
true,
I never
yeah.
understood.
No. Although if you're mentally unstable enough and you want the attention, I guess. I don't know.
So it's unfortunate that somebody would exploit a tragedy like this in an effort to gain from it somehow.
Right.
Are you ready for this next twist in this case?
Oh my God, there's more. Okay.
Oh yeah, there's way more. So in August of 2001, this is 18 months after Asha disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
A contractor is doing construction work. Okay. This is 26 miles from her family's home in a different direction from where Asha had been walking.
Okay.
He is digging in an area and discovers an item double wrapped in black plastic trash bags.
Okay.
Again, this is 26 miles from Asha's family home in a different direction from where she'd been seen walking.
Right.
It was sent to a laboratory or let me see here, actually. No, it had Asha's name on it. So they connected it. It was her book bag.
Oh.
So they found Asha's book bag, double wrapped in black plastic trash bags, and buried off the highway.
Okay. Wow.
So, yeah. The bag was sent to a lab for testing. But because the investigation is still basically ongoing, they never released the results. And I'm guessing that's just DNA or something.
Yeah.
But apparently the bag contained her name and phone number on a piece of paper, as well as clothing and a pencil that belonged to her.
Oh.
Nearby, where the thing was buried, they also found some animal bones and a pair of men's khaki pants. But it's unclear whether these items are related to Asha. They were found nearby, though.
Huh.
How weird is that?
That's really weird. I'm just speechless.
So they brought cadaver dogs in to search this area where the bag was found, and they, didn't turn up with anything.
Huh. Okay. So they found a piece of paper with her name and address inside the book bag. I wonder if this is like how some people will label their kids' book bag so it can be returned if it gets lost, or if this was like someone had written down her name and address and then just stuck it in there because they're trying to hide a bunch of evidence, and that was part of it.
My thought was that it was on the book bag, as in like you said, like where parents write their names and that's how it was identified.
Okay.
So we can talk later why somebody would do this. Why would they would bury it instead of burning it and I've seen a couple theories. One of them is to hide the scent from dogs by concealing it with a black trash bag. I don't know how that works. Another theory is that somebody buried it as a trophy or something.
Yeah, that might be. No.
Acting on a tip from a man in prison. Now we're at November 2004, okay?
Okay.
I don't know exactly what the tip was, but investigators performed an excavation at the corner of Shelby and Rube Spangler Road. They find animal bones and another pair of men's khaki trousers, but no Asha.
What?
So more animal bones. That's kind of crazy. And I never made that connection before right this minute.
More animal bones and another pair of men's khaki pants.
That's real weird, right?
That is real weird.
Okay, let's rewind a year prior to 2004.
Okay.
September of 2003, this guy named Danny Ray Johnson is arrested for the rape of a girl near Aisha's age. And this guy and his brother apparently lived near where Aisha's book bag was found. Now, both of the brothers deny any involvement in Aisha's case, and they gave DNA samples. And they also had alibis for the time of Aisha's disappearance. So while this guy is a piece of garbage who raped a girl near Aisha's age, who was a 9-year-old, it looks like they were cleared of this because of an alibi and stuff like that. So
okay.
2016, and we're almost to the end, and then we can get to your thoughts or our thoughts.
Okay.
But there's a couple more clues to talk about.
Wow. So 2016, 16 years after the disappearance.
Correct. Apparently, there was some tipsters that said they may have seen Aisha getting into a green 1970s Model Ford Thunderbird or a Lincoln Mark. What is the Roman numeral IV?
4.
I'm going to cut that out. Or a Lincoln Mark the Fourth. No, I'm just kidding. With rust around the wheel wells. So they released the images of these vehicles, and they're looking for people. The FBI is looking for people who know somebody with that car, knew somebody with that car at the time. I don't know who would have saw this, or if it was her or what. Go ahead.
So they saw her getting into this vehicle back in the year 2000, and they're just saying this now in the year 2016?
Yes.
That's odd.
It is very odd.
How do you remember information like that 16 years later? Or are you intentionally holding on to that information?
You know what? Your guess is as good as mine, because I don't get that either. I have no idea.
Here, okay.
Now, I should be doing this in a better order, but 2014, this guy named Donald Ferguson is arrested with the rape and murder of 7-year-old Shalonda Poole.
Oh, no.
Now, this is very upsetting, so I advise you to skip this part if it's something it's upsetting for everyone, but if you can't handle it, skip this about 30 seconds. So she went missing in but this was July 1990, and her body was found with signs of sexual assault and strangulation.
Whoa.
So they arrested this guy. So because the case had striking similarities, this girl, Shalonda Poole, is also a young African-American girl. I'm not sure. I think so. It was the same same general area, I think, also. Yeah, so this was also in North Carolina.
Oh.
So I think they looked into the possibility that this guy is connected. Obviously, this little girl was found, and this was 1990. Aisha went missing 10 years later in the year 2000.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so.
Ugh.
The last thing that I want to tell you about is as early as 2018, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The FBI releases new pieces of evidence, 2 new pieces of evidence.
Oh.
Okay, so the first thing they release is a t-shirt or possibly a nightdress. Now, it's a New Kids on the Block merchandise shirt with a photo of the band, red hems at the collar, sleeves, neck, and bottom hem. Police are asking anyone who knows someone who owned the shirt or who may have lost track of such a shirt. The second is a Dr. Seuss book called McElligot's Pool, which they think came from Aisha's elementary school. So they are asking if anyone had loaned out this book or knew someone who had it, and again, may have lost track of the book. So there's no record.
Wow.
These are said, apparently, to have been related to Asha. Now, where they got this, I don't know if it was found in her bag, if it was found near her bag, or how they came upon these items. But basically, the FBI came out and said, if anyone knows of anyone, again, in the year 2000, 18 years ago, who knows anything about these items, they're asked to reach out.
Wow. Okay.
So, Elaine, that's where we really stand with the disappearance of Asha Degree. Now, some things to consider here. Why did Asha leave her home in the middle of the night? Okay? Being scared of storms, being scared of the dark, being 9 years old. Why? What compels a child to do this on her own accord? Okay?
Yeah.
Who is the little girl in the photo? Is the photo even related? It was found with Asha's items, and nobody recognizes who the girl is. Nobody has ever come forward to say they know this person. What's the deal with her backpack found 26 miles in the opposite direction, double wrapped in plastic garbage bags?
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
So I can say, okay. But that's basically where we are. So I would love to hear your thoughts on this. What the hell's going on here, Elaine?
I wish that I had some sort of theory here, but this is baffling. I guess what I'm mostly stuck on is what caused her to leave her house in the first place. If you eliminate the part about her leaving on her own and walking down the highway alone, and you just look at the evidence they found, I could make sense of someone abducting her and wanting to hide her things in different areas so that it's harder to track. I mean, if I were trying to hide evidence, I would drive miles away in the opposite direction and hide it in some random location that I have no tie to. So I can make sense of that. I don't know what the first set of evidence found in the shed, is it tied at all to the family that lived there? I mean, is there any suspicion of them? But you don't think that you would hide a crime like that, evidence of a crime like that, in your own backyard. Again, I think that would just be trying to shove it somewhere that you have no relation to, so it's harder to track.
Well, I think the items that they found in the shed, the shed was off of the highway near where she was last seen, going off into the wooded section.
Do you think maybe she put those items in there?
I do. I think that she was out walking, and she, maybe after that driver came by, she got spooked. I think maybe she ran and sought shelter in this shed. Maybe she took out some of the items that she had, like the candy, and that's why they found these wrappers. But I mean, I could be 100% wrong, but I think she went there on her own accord.
Yeah. But what prompted her to leave her house? I mean, it sounds like she was coerced by someone.
That's a very popular theory.
But two people at least saw her on the highway, and they did not see anyone nearby.
Right.
There's no car alongside, like forcing her with an arm with a gun pointed at her head or anything. There's not, why? How did she? And she shared a room with her brother. So is it feasible that someone could have come into the house and into her room and woken her and coerced her to walk out of her house without any of her family members knowing this is going on, especially her brother?
I see what you're saying. I think it's way more likely that someone convinced her to leave. Some theories I've seen are like, some people say maybe her parents' anniversary had some significance. Maybe somebody said, come out, at this time and we'll get your mom and dad a really nice gift. We'll surprise them, and then they had bad intentions. They said, another thing I've wondered is, how did she wake up? Like, let's say somebody wanted her to meet out.
Yeah.
Why? Or not why, but how would she have been able to like keep track of time?
Right.
Like, did somebody ask her to meet at the shed? How would she have known to go to the shed? Or was she just going to the shed to get out of the rain and to maybe hide from this driver that she thought was like spotting, like Bob, like, I don't know. That's what's so baffling. It's like at age 9, it's crazy. Right. Can I bring one more, can I let you know about one more thing?
Yeah.
So another thing that they wondered if it had anything to do with her disappearance. Asha was in 4th grade at the time that she went missing. Mm-hmm. And her school had read the book, The Whipping Boy by Sid Fleischman. Are you familiar with that book?
I am. Yeah, I have read it. I'm trying to remember now because it's been probably since around 5th grade since I've read it.
Oh, okay. I didn't have to read it. I don't remember reading this book.
Maybe it was 4th grade.
I was going to say
we weren't together yet, 4th grade.
We weren't. But anyway, this book is by Sid Fleischman. And they actually read the book in February of 2000. So the book centers around the story of a prince and a commoner child who receives lashes on the royal's behalf. The children proceed to run away, and the book details their adventures. Both boys return safely to the kingdom at the story's end. It's not known if the book served as a catalyst for Asha's disappearance. So a lot of people think, or not a lot of people, I shouldn't say, but that has been brought up, like maybe in her 9-year-old mind, she thought it would be fun to have an adventure. And so maybe she was even talking to somebody at her sleepover, and they made plans to do this together.
Mm-hmm. That could be.
What I find very hard to believe, though, Elaine, is what are the chances that her leaving her house and her encountering an abduction, what are the chances of those not being related? Those are two very crazy things to happen.
Right.
It's like you have to believe that the reason she left has also to do with why she's disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I think they have to be related. Plus, even if she did want to go on an adventure, it seems unlikely that she would choose to do it in the middle of the night during a rainstorm.
Yeah. She was afraid of all those things. So
yeah, at that age, if I wanted to go explore, I did it, at 3 p.m. during daylight. Yeah. I was home for supper.
The thought of me going out, even at age 33, 32, I'm 32, even at, my age now, I would never, it terrifies me. The thought of walking outside, especially in a rural area on a highway.
Oh, yeah.
In the middle of the night, like it's terrifying. And I can't imagine making that choice at 9 years old.
No. Although now as adults, we don't have that. We're not as naive as a 9-year-old, and we have more fear of dangerous people and abductors, and we are more familiar with the reality of that. Whereas she might not be. She still trusts many people. She's just not as aware of all the terrible things that happen.
That's very true. She was sheltered. Her parents didn't put the news on for her. Harold and Iquilla were cleared. And they do seem to be genuinely heartbroken by what's happened. The mother has come out and said she continues holding out hope that her child is alive somewhere.
Yeah.
She feels like if Asha was deceased, that God would have given her a sign.
Okay.
So And then you have the fact like O'Brien heard her get up. And then the fact that she was seen by two independent drivers. I feel like it's hard for me to believe that the parents were involved. But I will say that is a potential theory because a lot of people have said that what would the reason be for her to leave the house? She was either running to something or from something.
Right.
But
Right.
it seems like the police do not believe the parents are involved. And I trust that. I don't,
Yeah, I don't get that impression. And I believe that the police did their work to clear the parents of any guilt. Yeah,
Right.
I don't think that they don't seem to be involved. How do you, as a parent, sleep again, ever again at night? Knowing you had a child disappear in the middle of the night while you were sleeping. Like, how do you? And now you have another child at home. How do you ever sleep at night? Just knowing that can happen. Your child can just disappear.
Right. Now, O'Brien is in his 30s now. And,
Wow.
It's very sad. I think the most popular theory is that she was lured out somehow by someone. And whatever reason that they gave her had to be pretty damn good for her to be walking on the highway at that time of night in that condition.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make sense.
Why did she not grab a coat if it was raining out?
That I don't know. I believe she had a long sleeve shirt on.
Huh.
But that's a good question. I don't know what the temperature was that night.
Or just a rain jacket. I don't like to walk in the rain. It's uncomfortable. You're going to get wet.
There are signs. I mean, she locked up after she left. She has her key with her.
Oh.
So there's that. Somebody else has to be involved here, obviously, because of the backpack. She's not going to bury her own backpack 26 miles away.
No, it sounds like someone must have told her some story to convince her to leave on her own accord. I think you could be right that she was told to meet them somewhere for some special surprise or some reason that was somehow good enough for her to leave her house in the middle of the night.
Do you think maybe
they actually did have nefarious intentions?
Do you think they used the photo of the other little girl as a way to entice her? Like maybe you can come out and you could play with my daughter or my niece or something. Or, and gave her the picture and said like, you guys would, I don't know, like you guys would make great friends.
Maybe just to show I'm a safe person. Here's my daughter. I can't be a bad person if I have a child, if they make up some crap like that.
But I really want to know that's another thing that I'm going to post on Instagram is that photo, because who is that?
I don't know.
Who is it? I mean, somebody somewhere has to know who that is, because it looks like a school photo. If it's not a school photo, it looks like a professionally taken photo.
Yeah.
She didn't take that photo herself in 2000.
No, it's so weird that no one has identified that photo.
Yeah. And I mean, I will be fair, at the time that it was released, they buried it in the paper at like the bottom of page something really far into the paper. So, but now that the case is, within true crime communities, this case is very well known. And the photo has been spread.
Has it been featured on Unsolved Mysteries or anything like that?
I don't believe it's been on Unsolved Mysteries, no.
I wonder if it was even more nationally broadcasted, if someone even now would recognize her.
Well, I don't have like a ton of followers yet, but I will post the photo and I think, yeah, people should just continue to share it because as more time goes on, it's going to be harder and harder to identify it. We're now 22 years later. And yeah.
It is very hard to believe that she could still be alive at this point. But I don't know. I think that there might be something to that mother's intuition that she doesn't. I mean, you could argue that she is just so hopeful that her daughter's not dead. She's not willing to accept it.
Can I put forth another very grim scenario?
Yeah.
Again, this is probably the worst thing I'll have to talk about. So if you're sensitive, skip ahead. But one theory I did read online was, what if she was trafficked? Oh. And what if the items that the police, the investigators, the FBI released, the book, the photo of the book and the shirt, what if those things were seen on somebody in some sort of video, like a video of a child being, I don't think I have to go any further, but no, that's one theory. And that didn't come from FBI or anything. That just came from somebody speculating. Like, what if they saw a girl in a video or something that resembled Asha that they maybe believe is her or something. And these items either appeared in the background or something like that.
That is a very valid theory. I guess I hadn't considered that. I guess you just hear about sex trafficking and child trafficking so much more recently, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't a thing in the year 2000.
It would go along with her being lured out of the house.
And that would be the type of victim that they would go after, someone who was very naive and trusting.
And so young. Mm-hmm. Which is sick, but...
That is extremely disturbing.
Yeah, so I mean, somebody could have, at some stage in Asha's life, now, none of her friends could point to anything that she said or did, but at some stage or some place, whether it's at her church or her school or somewhere, maybe she encountered somebody who kind of groomed her, talked to her. Maybe he showed her the photo or gave her the photo and said, "This is my daughter, my niece or something. Why don't we all meet and you can play? You guys can have an adventure or like whatever." And then that's how she was lured out.
Yeah.
Still, I'm thinking, is that enough? Or maybe she thought, my parents won't let me go play with this girl, and so I'll just sneak out. But it still seems really far-fetched that she would do this by herself, but she clearly did.
Yeah, the lines don't connect when this happened at after 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah, it's a very, very strange case. So,
you'd think that this would be like maybe this abductor was at her basketball game and then, would have tried a scenario like that. It would be more believable. In the middle of the day at the basketball game, someone could have approached her and I could see that. She might follow him. But for it to happen in the middle of the night like that is so odd.
And that's a theory I've heard too, that somebody approached her and said, maybe we could all practice basketball together so you can get better or something. But still, I don't know, man.
That is baffling. I do wonder what the connection of those items are, the book and the shirt.
Right. I mean, they could have been found near something, or, I mean, the FBI hasn't said how they're related, but they say they're investigating it in relation to her. So they have something.
They hadn't said if her parents identified the shirt as belonging to her, did they?
They haven't said that.
Okay.
No.
Huh.
So it's very
Yikes.
weird.
Yeah, you were right. This is very baffling.
Okay, well, we're going to post photos of all of these things that we referenced on the Instagram page at 143 Mysteries. And if you have any information about this case, you're asked to contact the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office at 704-484-4822. If Asha was alive today, she would be 31 years old.
Wow.
Any last thoughts before we call it a day?
No, I don't think so. I hope that somebody somewhere can provide anything that can help provide closure for this family.
I agree.
This is a very horrible story.
It's a horrible story, and I'm sorry to be bringing this to you on Valentine's Day, but it is the 22-year anniversary of the case. So I thought it would be appropriate to do.
I think the more that we talk about it and the more people hear about it, the more likely it is that people can help.
Agreed.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thanks, Elaine, for doing this.
Yeah.
And thank you all for listening. Check out the Instagram page, and we will see you next time.
See you next time.
This podcast has been approved by Skipper the Cat. Right, Skippy?